Good morning, everybody. It is lovely to see you back on the Tech and Innovation stage. Welcome to day 2 of the summit here at Leaders Week. I hope you had a lovely and long evening and are eager for an exciting day ahead. We've got plenty for you on this stage over the next few hours. This, of course, is the place for best practice, new thinking, fresh ideas, and genuine innovation shaping the future of the sports industry. My name's David Cushnan, Head of Content at Leaders. I'll be guiding you through things on this stage throughout the day. If you were here watching any of the sessions on this stage yesterday, you'll know that I deployed a new piece of technology called a mobile telephone. So if you do have one of these, they're pretty good. Do make sure you have the Leaders app downloaded where you can ask questions via the speaker interaction button at any point, and they'll come straight through to us on stage. Let's get underway straight away with perhaps the biggest topic facing the world of sport at the moment as the world reopens and spectator, fan and consumer experiences begin to show signs of life again. We're going to take a look at what the future of live experiences might look like, from physical to digital to hybrid, across sports, entertainment and retail. And we're going to do this in the company of CSM Live's Director of Experiential and Events, Paul Hicks, and shortly Ben Huxley, Sponsorship and Activations Manager for the UK and Ireland at Paddy Power. We'll hear from Ben in a few minutes' time, but first of all, to set the scene on this exciting topic for us all, please welcome to the stage CSM Live's Paul Hicks.
Thank you for the intro, David. I've kind of forgotten how to do this. It's been a while. If you hear any strange sounds, by the way, that's my stomach rumbling. I forgot to have breakfast. No idea why. Look, thank you and welcome to this session on brand experience and where we think it's heading next. My name is Paul Hicks, as David said, and I work for CSM Live. We create relevant, credible and memorable brand experiences on behalf of rights holders and brands for consumers and fans all around the world. We are part of the CSM Sport and Entertainment Group with a footprint across 25 global locations. Now you can probably tell by the bags under my eyes and my hairline, I have been in the industry a number of years. And I've seen experiential evolve year on year across 2 decades. And I kind of hope I'm around for the next 25 years or so to see it evolve again. But before we think of the future, I guess we've got to, and it's all on our minds, take a little snapshot of recent times, the pandemic. People suffered, sectors suffered, the world suffered. I think all in the same storm, just a different boat. And all live manner of physical experience just ground to a halt, back in March 2020. Of course, this is really devastating for the industry of live events because we are living in an experience-driven economy. People seek status through experiences. And during this time, what happened was quite catastrophic. And I think that when we think about the future, we've got to look at where we've been. Now, of course, we turned to virtual, but before we did that, we teamed up with the famed brand Paddy Power, and we created the Paddy Power Golf Shootout. Now, this was still during the pandemic as we came out of lockdown in June 2020. Bunch of celebrities, bunch of golfers having some fun and bringing a bit of excitement to the world while many were still under certain restrictions. But we made this safe. Probably the UK's first, if not the world's first, biosecure venue where everyone was tested in advance before they got onto the site. Social distancing, masks, hand sanitizer, crew not sharing the same tools or traveling in the same vans, cleaning. We did it all to make everyone feel comfortable and safe. But let me show you a video because it speaks volumes.
Ready, Paddy, go!
How about seeing Peter Crouch playing with kid-sized golf clubs?
Welcome to the Centurion Club in Hertfordshire, the scene for a very special golf shootout. apprehensive. Not normal golf, is it?
It's Paddy Pong.
Piers Morgan's having a blind up. It's disappointing, isn't it?
Oh! This couldn't be going any better. Not laughing now, are you, fat boy?
That looks fantastic.
And then had one shot.
Could be in trouble here. Careful, what do you think?
If he beats you, he doesn't go back to Tottenham.
Yes! The Paddy Power Golf Shootout.
Does this count as elite sport?
I think so.
Don't miss the Paddy Power Golf Shootout live on TalkSport.
As you can see, Paddy Power pioneering the world of sport as we came out of lockdown. Pretty ironic, I guess. Piers Morgan calling Freddie Flintoff a fat boy. Ben is here. He will be up on stage shortly. Any more questions you want to ask about this, feel free to do so. I've got a question for you as an audience, something that's been playing on my mind. So if footballers, rugby players, F1 drivers, tennis players, etc., play golf in their spare time, what do golfers play? I don't know. Give me the answer at the end of this. Anyway, fast forward to today. So, of course, the vaccines are being rolled out, albeit some countries are rolling them out quicker than others. The world's kind of coming out of hibernation. People are trying to get their lives back to normal. You know, they're visiting physical spaces, they're socializing, they're engaging in experiences. But let's just take a moment and think, what has changed? What's next? What will change? What does the future of experiences look like? Lots of industry experts up until now have probably given their opinion, and some will be right, some will be wrong. I will give my opinion. The unfortunate thing is we don't have a crystal ball, and things are moving quite quickly. And, you know, a bit like technology, it will continue to move quickly. But the important thing is we are redefining and relearning. So we've got to watch the world, how it unfolds, and look and see what others are doing as well. But, of course, during the world of not being able to do anything physical in the world of experiences, everyone, you know, brands, rights holders, agencies alike, all jumped on board with virtual. And even us at CSM, this is the announcement of the British and Irish Lions squad. We did it via a virtual studio. I think, again, a world first, where this was the first time that the players would learn whether they made the squad or not. But of course, fast forward to what is June, certainly in the UK, and lots of other markets are opening up as well around the world. You know, we're able to attend venues, sporting events, you know, music events, festivals, etc. And I strongly believe that it's in people's nature, you know, to want to attend and experience things. And, you know, we think about sport, entertainment, retail, and travel. You know, people have the desire to want to do these things, providing we can make them safe. And, you know, I look at it and think that actually, as the world moves on and the world opens up, if we can make them safe, people will get out and about. But we cannot forget that all that virtual engagement that's happened, and you think of the millions of people that have engaged through virtual worlds and virtual spaces, you know, it's created happiness, community, it's created comfort from the comfort of their own homes. Perhaps this is part of culture, part of the future, part of people's lives now as they move forward. So it's just something we've got to kind of continue to remember. But how does this create new opportunities and generate value for us as rights holders and brands? You know, how do we commercialize this? Well, I think we've got to foster, we've got to cultivate a culture of intellectual bravery through innovation and through creativity. Because the pandemic equals new normal, Or does the pandemic equal normal, or does the pandemic equal any type of normal? We're all using these terms, but who knows? I mean, what we do know is the pandemic has changed the world. And when we see change, we see opportunity. So I think, we've got to start thinking about how do we seek out these opportunities creatively and drive value for us as rights holders, as brands, as agencies, and as an audience. And open impact is scaling across multiple sectors, and particularly for those sectors that are bound by a physical venue or a physical space. And non-sector partnerships are on the rise. So, we've seen brands and rights holders forge creative alliances with those non-sector partnerships such as, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, gaming, Instagram. All of these are on the rise. And you see live sports broadcasting as an example, which is now integrating with tech and social media. So all of this is going to open up a wider audience and a more diverse audience, therefore equals a huge opportunity. I think the important thing is that we've got to start trying to think differently. We've got to start breaking the mold. We've got to start looking at where the world is at and what people want and how we can drive value to them. An example of these type of partnerships are, you look at EE's Matchday experience. It's got on-the-go AR, it's got pitch-side 360 viewing, it's got a shared split-screen interface so you can watch it with friends. You look at virtual gigs, you look at BTS Sound. This is a Korean pop band. If anyone is into music, you might have heard of them, but they're very popular around the world. Over 100 million people watch their virtual concerts. So virtual gigs are obviously on the rise and proven successful. Fenty Skin last year launched their product with a virtual house party with Rihanna, and they created in-home hidden treasures for people to engage with, as well as people could live stream themselves to the virtual dance floor. Even luxury fashion and retail are jumping on board with these non-sector partnerships. You look at Valentino. They dropped in 20 custom virtual costumes and designs into Nintendo's Animal Crossing, which has got an audience of 11 million plus gamers. But more recently, and you would have seen this in the news over the last few weeks, the Asos and Fnatic deal. I mean, what a huge deal. So this is Asos on Fnatic's front shirt, and a 3-year deal. So effectively, they're talking about doing on and offline activations. And of course, it gives each partner access to the tens of millions of customers and gamers. And then the last one I wanted to show as an example, this is the Wolves and Warner Music Alternative Distribution Alliance. This is the first time a UK football club has created a record label. Unheard of. But you think about, as artists, that the access they will get to the global Premier League audience, as well as what Wolves will get in terms of the marketing and distribution of ADA's platform. So you can see how the world's changing, and we've got to really think about this and jump on board. So now I guess what we have to do is we have to think about how we create immersive in-home experiences that marry up and go hand in hand with physical events. This is to unlock new opportunities. Now, of course, in-home entertainment has been around for decades, but I think the future is the evolution of it is going to rely on a more complete connected experience to drive value and opportunities. Of course, we all sit here and the world is unfolding, right in front of us. It's going to cause a bit of a headache, I think. It's going to take a long while, to master, but it's going to open up wider audiences, more diverse audiences, and be more inclusive. So I think it's just something we've got to start thinking about. And before I finish and we get Ben Huxley from Paddy Power on stage, I guess technology and where does that fit in? Because clearly geography is no longer a limitation with technology. And the world, throughout the pandemic, technology has enabled us to be connected. It's enabled fans and consumers to engage in virtual spaces as well. But I guess the consideration for tech is adoption rates. Everyone thought VR was going to be a trend. Is it a trend? Questionable. adoption rates tech takes quite a while to adopt. So I think it's important to consider these things and use tech if it's going to create an advantage in this world. I'm going to say thank you, and let's hand back over to David.
Thank you very much, Paul. We're going to shuffle around here. Excellent stuff, Paul. A glimpse into, well, I was going to say the future, but actually, as you showed, what we are all starting to experience now. And should formally introduce Ben Huxley from Paddy Power. Great to have you here, Ben, to talk through a little bit about what you're doing and to talk in general about physical, digital, hybrid, and how everything is merging together and in some ways becoming a lot more complicated. Paul, let's build on what you showed then, and loads of really interesting examples. Fundamentally, has what makes a great event changed in your view?
Honestly, I don't think so. Because what makes a great event, I think, is the expectation of an individual. People who attend events, they want to attend something that's going to be it's going to be amazing, and they're going to have a great time. So, we've always got to continue to strive to create great events, right? We want to put on a show, we want to create an experience, and ultimately we want people to remember it, we want them to share it, and we want them to come back time and time again. So I don't think it's changed. I think there will be add-ons and integration that will enable it to become better for the masses rather than the few.
What about your view, Ben, from a brand point of view? Paddy Power obviously has tied itself and continues to tie itself to events that other people run, but also you're doing increasingly a lot of your own stuff, as we saw. What does great look like, and has it always looked that way?
I think we have to be sort of mindful of the people coming to our events, and I think people have different opinions on what makes a great event. For some people, as we saw during the Euros, and at festivals over the summer, there is this need to be in communal spaces. People want to be together again, enjoying those experiences, in mass numbers. For other people, they still want to be at events, but they're not yet comfortable in the same spaces as other people. And as a brand, I think we have to be mindful of both of those approaches to this. Those two things don't necessarily go hand in hand. So it's about creating events for us that cater for both of those requirements, really.
I think just to build on that, I guess what Ben is saying is that COVID protocols, it's really important that we marry them up with the experience design. Again, not always easy, but we've got to make people feel safe in these environments.
Building on that, Paul, obviously at CSM Live, you're working on all sorts of projects for all sorts of different clients. How has your approach changed? How have you had to change in terms of conceptualizing these events, in terms of the planning of them, as you've touched on, and then the delivery of them? And what are your sort of internal processes like now compared to what they would have been 2 years ago? I
mean, things have changed, like what is normal? I mean, it's quite difficult to say, because if you look at, events are running in line with government guidelines, but if you look at the world, every government, you can interpret their guidelines how you see fit, right? Because it feels they're all quite open. And an example of that is we had an activation at Boardmasters for a client. Every single person who attended, including staff, had to be lateral flow tested before they entered the space. We did some events at Pub in the Park recently for a client. Only staff needed to be lateral flow tested. No attendees, no ticket holders needed any evidence of negativity of COVID. So it's a challenge for us, but I think the important thing is we've got to be responsible as both organisers and as event goers. We have to be responsible. It's not just about us, it's about others. And I think the way our planning has worked, and conceptualization, well, as I said before, it's just about making sure that at the very early stages of experience design, COVID protocols are thought about, and that they don't jeopardize one another, because you always want to put on a great experience, right? But you want to make it safe. From a planning perspective, well, we're a full service agency, and we're fortunate enough to have our own in-house production as well. So we just make sure that account handlers and production, we keep them separate, because we don't want the show to stop. Effectively, we want to keep things going. But it's also about making sure that we have a plan A, B, C, D, and E, because you could wake up on the morning of a live event and you might have 3 people that have just tested positive for COVID. So you've got to be able to deal with that really quickly. And that's just things that, you've got to have a bit of foresight around this, and ensure that, if you have staffing on site, you've got to have understudies. You've got to have people you can just connect into to pull in as and when you need.
And Ben, from Paddy Power's point of view, I guess a lot of that will resonate with you, in terms of how you're organising and thinking about your, for want of a better phrase, sponsorship activities.
I would say the first stage for us is having a real respect for sort of government guidelines. The last event I went to pre-lockdown was the Cheltenham Festival, and that was both as an attendee, but also Paddy Power, the brand, was associated. We had sponsorships at that event. And within 3 or 4 days of that event finishing, the whole country was in lockdown. And, it's sort of regarded as a sort of a super spreader event. And as a brand to, if we are going to put on our own events in future, we need to make very sure that those sorts of accusations couldn't be, levelled at the brand, and that we're very careful about the way we act going forward.
What about appetite to attend events? Seems to be okay from a business point of view. What are you hearing? What are you picking up? What are you learning about audiences, consumers, the general population in terms of willingness to come back?
So here's my sales piece. We did a bit of research, actually, in the UK, and we did some anecdotal stuff around some of our offices around the world as well. And this research was about what people thought about coming back to the world of events and live experiences, and it's pretty telling. Feel free to talk to me about it afterwards, because I can share that research with you. Look, the appetite is there. 100%. We've been running events over the last few months in the UK, in the US, in the Middle East, and they're all maxed out. You look at festivals, music events, football stadiums, sold out. People just want to come back. Of course, there's a nod to making sure they're safe, but I think those who come back into the world of events, they want to do it. They'll make sure they're safe, they'll want to do it. So there's definitely an appetite. The demand for, are consumers and fans going to be more demanding? I don't think so. I think there is an evolution of expectation. But look, people just want to get out and about. They've been missing out for 18 months. They just want to get out. And, the events we've been putting on, we were recently at the London Marathon activating on behalf of Flora. Everything was being set up in the rain. The following day was beautiful sunshine, and there was 40,000 people out, attending and participating, and spectators. There was an average of 3 or 4 spectators per runner.
Yes, similarly, the main events we put on post end of lockdown were the Paddy Power fan zones during the Euros, and just the overwhelming emotion there was, people just being grateful to be back, just absolute delight that they can be with their friends again and enjoy these incredible sporting moments. Obviously, massive demand for tickets, which of course was in part due to the success of the England football team, but I'd also like to think it was because we put on a pretty good show ourselves, and but yeah, demand through the roof.
Hard to predict, of course, but actually, based on your experience, do you think actually what we're experiencing now is almost something akin to the novelty factor of being back out in events? Do you expect it to sort of slightly taper off, or do you actually think that we are back to a very high level?
I think it's going to accelerate. I think it's going to accelerate because, as I said previously, we live in a experience-driven economy. People seek status through experiences. So those that want to, and not just in the world of sport and in the world of entertainment, but you look at shopping malls, they're back to full capacity. people want to get out and about. This is part of life for many people.
I think for many people, maybe people have been to a sporting event or perhaps one gig or perhaps a festival. I think we're incredibly early on.
Or perhaps a top quality sports business.
An amazing, yes.
Like this, absolutely.
It still feels new. It still feels exciting. I would imagine the conversation that went on last night, a lot of that was like, how many things have you been to? What's it been like? And it still feels fresh and exciting at this point.
Get your questions in for Ben and Paul. It's slido.com, SLIDO.com. Hashtag leaders is the code. Also available on the app, as I said. You can fire in a question over the next 10 minutes or so. So we've got high public appetites. We've got a blurred and more complex, I suppose, set of possibilities in terms of event organisation and what that looks like. Do you sense that that's spurring a new era or a new spirit of creativity? Are we in an innovative age?
I'll pass it to you.
Possibly. I also think the pandemic itself was a real opportunity for those who grasped it to potentially create events, which is what we tried to do during that period. Everybody was in the same boat. COVID was effectively a sort of a great leveler at times because there was no sport. Nobody was doing it. Nobody could show anything. Nobody could create anything. So it was a level playing field. And for us as a brand, we just attempted to step into that space. If no one else is putting any live sport on, well, why can't we put any live sport on? And that's what we attempted to do. We had a Darts from Home series, which was the sort of... The thing with the pandemic, it was a terrifying time. It was also a really fucking boring time. There was nothing going on. So we just looked at it and thought, well, if there's nothing going on, let's create something ourselves. And we quickly identified darts as a sport. It's probably the most COVID-safe sport. If I play you at darts now, we're aiming at the same board.
Social distanced.
Yeah, we don't have to be in contact with each other. We don't have to share equipment. Actually, Paul could play on a board there. I could play on a board here. As long as I'm aware of his score, that's all that really matters. So we identified darts as the most COVID-safe sport, and then we tried to find a way of recording matches and creating new events. So we found some Wi-Fi-enabled dartboards, and then we were able to link two players up in very different locations and have them play a game which we filmed on 2 iPhones.
Was that the event where there was one player, and forgive me, I forget his name, where he wasn't able to compete because his Wi-Fi, he lived in the sticks, and his Wi-Fi just wasn't compatible?
It actually, that was the PDC, so I wouldn't say it was a rival, they did an official tournament with players. We did with 2 legends of the game, so we did it with Phil the Power Taylor and Raymond van Barneveld, and then some other...
But it was right in that phase of everybody figuring it out on the fly, basically.
Well, as we figured out that darts was the most COVID-safe sport, obviously the PDC did as well, and they started creating their own events. But that was the first one we did, and then secondly we moved on to the shootout golf tournament.
I wish you'd talked about the darts example in the prep, because we could have brought a dartboard in to make that bit a lot more perilous.
Although I'm not that good at darts.
Okay, fair enough. Bit of danger for the audience. So we are all now hearing the word hybrid a lot. Paul, sort of take us through the do's and don'ts of hybrid as you're starting to see them, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the answer to this new puzzle that we're all facing does not seem to be, if you are doing a physical event, you must tag on a digital version.
No, I think we're all navigating still. I think we're all looking at things and going, let's test and learn, let's see what others are doing. When it comes to doing a hybrid model, well, what value is it going to add? Whether that's you're doing a live event and then you're adding in a digital or virtual element, or whether it's vice versa. What value is it going to add? Why are you doing it? Does it add value to the audience? Does the additional investment marry up with, adding that value, etc. And, I think the thing about hybrid models, I think the success of hybrid models, first and foremost, will work in environments like this. More corporate events is where it will work because, first and foremost, it is very easy to stream technology already exists. It's very easy to stream people in, and actually, those that aren't able to make it for whatever travel restrictions, they can do that. But really, you can't.
Well, they're out there, Paul.
Well,
You should give them a big wave.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, to whatever country. So it's difficult to say right now. And if we think about the future of it, of course, it's going to be part and parcel of live events and vice versa. But what it looks like and how it unfold and evolve is, again, with no crystal ball, it's more difficult to tell because we're still, I think, in the embryonic stages of it.
And from your point of view, Ben, at Paddy Power, because we are still in the very early phase, Paddy Power is a brand that has been known to take a risk or two. Is this an area though where actually you are sort of just waiting to see how the technology evolves, how the behaviours of the audience evolve, and trying to be as fluid as possible?
Yeah, it's definitely far too early to really make any real conclusions come to any conclusions about this. The other thing with sport is that if you go to a live sport event, it's a brilliant experience. And if you watch it on TV, it's also a brilliant experience. So it's kind of hard to know really where that additional layer fits in. Whereas for other industries, so I'd say like music and arts, for example, it's a bit sort of easier to see how that would work. You could have museums opening virtually. You had, during the pandemic, you had recording artists who had concerts kind of from their bedrooms. And then you had a real interactivity there. People could pick set lists and that sort of thing. And that felt really new and exciting. Whereas sport is already extremely well serviced, I would say, both in the live arena and on TV. So. And
Paul, actually, there's something we were discussing yesterday on this stage with regards to broadcast. But the viewer, the consumer's tolerance for slightly, for want of a better phrase, lower production or slightly more raw production is there, right?
It's authentic
because of what we've been through.
Yeah, and it's authentic. It's like people, I think, absolutely, like if you can't, the thing with tech is, and integration is, it becomes perhaps a little bit more costly and there's more risks involved, right? The more component part you put into something, the more risk there is. So, there is a tolerance for little mistakes and things not working quite right, because actually, if you think about EE's matchday experience as an example, and Ben talking about sports, it's great going to watch a football game, experiencing that atmosphere, the journey there, the journey home amongst your friends, it's incredible. You can't put a price on that, but actually not everyone can get there. Only 50,000 people can get there. So actually integration, and if it doesn't work quite right, you're still getting this, a really great experience and sharing that with your friends.
We found with our darts tournament before, as I said, it was filmed on iPhones. There was no camera crew there. Phil Taylor set up his own 2 iPhones to record himself. The production, costs of that series were about £3,000. Yet when the product launched, the show was shown on, Sky Sports took it. They showed it live. There are 1 million viewers of this thing. So, whether going forward people will still be so accepting of slightly lower quality technology, certainly during the pandemic, the appetite was there just for something new and something different. And it didn't matter that it was a little bit rough around the edges. It was just, at least it was something.
Yeah. So we've got a more blurred event experience environment, but a bit more joined up, and we no longer probably have physical element over here, digital element over here. From a brand, not specifically Paddy Power, but from a general brand point of view and a rights holder point of view, how much more complicated, if at all, is it going to be to measure the success of an event as things get compressed together?
I don't think it's going to be that complicated. I think it's only going to add more, and bigger opportunities to create tangible measurements, because actually, when you think about the world of virtual and digital, you can track everything these days. So I think it's only going to add value to it. And I think, of course, there's always increased pressure to measure physical experiences. We're always looking for new ways, and technology, the acceleration of technology, is going to enable that.
Yeah, just agree. Yeah, I don't see the measurement side of it isn't the challenge. It's the eyeballs on a website or on a live stream. or if it comes to monetizing a new hybrid event or whatever, then you have the financial implications of it. You know what you've spent on it, you know what came in. So I think it's relatively easy, the measurement side of it. Yeah.
Got a couple of minutes left only, so one more question for you both. If we're sat here in 5 years' time having this same conversation about this same topic, what will a great event at that time look like? Will it be fundamentally different from what we have now? Will it be something that we haven't even thought of with a technology that we don't yet know exists or could exist? What do you think of some of the things that we're going to be talking about, or will it be much the same?
I mean, firstly, it's a boring answer, but the biggest question is what happens with the pandemic. There's a possibility in 5 years' time there'll be some silver bullet and it'll be a thing of the past. A slim chance, but it's possible. It's also possible that what we have at the moment, this is the new normal, this is what it's going to be like in 5 years' time. It's also possible that there could be a mutation, things could go downhill. Assuming what we have at the moment remains, I think what we'll see over the next couple of years are people trying things, people copying other people innovating, and slowly but surely it being sort of dialed down until we settle on maybe 3, 4, 5 formats that work and become commonplace and just accepted into Paul's thinking and our thinking whenever we put on an event.
Look, for me, it's as I said, technologies can take a number of years to adopt. So it could be very Star Trek, but again, we don't have a crystal ball. My thinking is that there's the appetite's there. There's just going to be more of them. They're going to be more often, and there's going to be a lot more variety because and that variety is going to be that virtual and digital and hybrid integration.
Good stuff. Well, a fascinating conversation. Really look forward to seeing how it all plays out. Good luck with everything Paddy Power related, Ben. I know you've got lots on at CSM Live, Paul, so we'll let you get back to that. Do thank both our panellists for being with us. Our next session here on the Tech and Innovation stage begins in about 20 minutes' time. We will have Infront X with us here, introducing us all to Infront Labs. So really looking forward to that. But for now, Ben, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.